It worked this time.
Okay.
Good job,
Welcome
Annie.
to House Education on February 27th, 2025. We are jumping around a lot today, but we are returning to learning more about the early college program and sort of its importance, not just to the kids who do it, but also to our state college system. Welcome to you both. Thank you for being here, and the floor is yours. Just introduce yourselves and move right along.
Thank you very much. Well, we appreciate this opportunity to talk about early college. For the record, I am Beth Mauk. I'm the Chancellor of the Vermont State Colleges System. And just for a brief overview, and I can have Sharon jump in to provide even extra context for you. The last time I was here, I said we really were established for the benefit of Vermont. And to us, that does mean that every Vermonter should have access to high quality higher education, regardless of their income or their location. This program is just another example of that. Just a little bit of detail on that. The early college program is a program that allows high school seniors to come to one of our campuses or do remote learning at the CCB and or the VTSU centers or campuses. And there's a small program with Norwich University as well. And I suppose I'll provide sort of the broader overview of why this program is so important, and I can let Sharon jump in with a couple of the details. This program really is a success story, not only for the Vermont State Colleges system, but really for the students that we are serving through this program. And let me just give you a few numbers. In the fall of 2024, there were 377 students who were participating. From FY23 to FY24, there was a 41% increase in first generation college students. CCB has seen some of its highest participation rates. We think in part due also to the McClure promise. We had, and this next number I'm going to give you is very important. You all should know I have worked on early college type programs for my entire career in now 3 states. There was last year a 45% return of students. So of the students who we served the year before, 45% of them came to a campus on the Vermont State Colleges system, whether that be CCV or Vermont State University. Percentages like that do not exist in programs like this. Typically, it's a very small number of students who continue on. So that's not only important for these students who are getting a leg up on college, it is important for the state of Vermont. We know that we have Vermonters that come to Vermont State Colleges system. We know that those students tend to stay in Vermont. So this really is a program where we can talk about how the program really does help for the retention of young folks to stay in the state. Also, in addition to that, 81% of the students overall continued to college. In 2019, that number was 69%. So we're seeing an increased number of students who participate in this program and who then continue on into college, into some college. The other thing that this has done is really increase the number of students who come from a low income background. So last year we hit about 50% of the students in the program were low income. That's so important. This really is a way for them to better their economic realities. And again, we know that this works. Overall, this particular program is less than 6% of the high school students across the state. So we think that it is so valuable, and I will just pass it off to Sharon if you have additional details to what I've had.
Absolutely. Sharon Scott, and for the record, I'm the Chief Financial and Operating Officer for the system. And I just want to make mention that joining us today are a number of our faculty and staff, and we're really excited to see them spending time here at the State House. So you'll see them
Thank you.
here behind me. So we really thank them for coming and joining us today. The program last year had 355 students who attended the Vermont State Colleges as part of the early college program and concluded the program. They started the year with 370. A few of them decided that the program wasn't really for them and didn't return for the spring semester. But by the end of that year, 355 students were there. The program itself, it cost $2.9 million, almost $3 million for the state of Vermont. And what that covers is the cost of tuition for those students. At Vermont State University, we waive a large number of fees for those students. So we waive their comprehensive fee and some of their course-related fees. And students with financial need are able to apply to VSAC for funds to help support materials and books. But that $2.9 to $3 million is essential to our ability to be able to continue to offer classes. These students are also in the classes themselves, whether those classes are online, synchronously, asynchronously, or in person. And they're really adding to the vibrant life of these campus locations and adding real value to them. The students themselves are incredibly competent. We had 24 or so students last year who had a 4.0, and a large number of students who made it on the Dean's List. That is incredibly remarkable. And these students, because they're still in high school, are really dedicated to what they're doing. Not only because this program is important to them, but also because it contributes towards their ability to be able to get their high school degree. It's a program that is offering some really essential opportunities for students to be able to have different ways to be able to learn. There's a wide variety of reasons why students enroll in this program. We have students who have chosen to enroll because their parents have moved from one district to another and didn't want to complete their senior year in a new high school. Other students who have really found that perhaps they're not fitting in as well as they would like to in their own high school, or maybe the opportunities that they have because they want to study something that's really specific to them that they can't do in their own high school. But there's a million different reasons why these students want to participate in the programs, but they have become ones that we really have seen have been really valuable to them.
Thank you. I don't think anybody here questions the value of early college. I think where we might sort of think about is what's the impact on sending schools and all that. But I think really the baseline here is that Vermonters sent a very clear message to us that they want lower property taxes. Property taxes are generally the education fund, and this is paid for out of the education fund. I think that if we said, well, this is really not a K-12 program, and it should be funded out of the general fund, every year we would have to make a value judgment, which doesn't happen right now, to say we're going to fund it or we're not. And so I think what I'm curious to know about is, let's say all of that happened and one year the budget was tight and they said, we are not going to fund early college. It's not a necessity. It's great, but it's not a necessity and it goes away. You're saying it's about $3 million. What's the impact on the state college system if that goes away?
Financially, that impact is huge. It's $1.7 million for the community college of Vermont. Their total revenue budget is under $30 million. So to reduce their revenue budget by $1.7 million would be devastating to them and would limit their ability to be able to provide the necessary offerings elsewhere. The same is true at Vermont State University. They have a larger budget than the community college, but it's the remaining difference. So we're looking at really issues that happen with the colleges that we would need to identify how we would address the structural deficit that would be related to the lost revenue. So losing $3 million, we would need to find $3 million someplace else. As you know, the Vermont State Colleges has been working for these last few years to right its financial shift. Adding a $3 million burden to that would be something that would be extraordinarily difficult for us to do.
I think one of the, we were presented with your budget proposal, which included, creating a free college avenue for Vermonters. And I think that was a $5.9 million request. And just in the world of hypotheticals, let's say one went away and one was created. And early college went away, but the free college program was created. Seems like that would be a net gain for the state colleges. Again, I'm not, this is a hypothetical world. We're somebody's got to make that decision.
So the calculation that BSEC did related to putting forward the Freedom and Unity Scholarship assesses the students who are already here. So those are students who are already here who are not receiving funding for early college. So it's not a net gain, it would be a net loss. We do anticipate that the Freedom and Unity Scholarship would have a benefit down the road in terms of being able to recruit students, helping students who may have felt that it was difficult for them to consider college. That's what we found with the 802 opportunity, that really drove home for a lot of students that college is possible for them. But the existing calculation that BSEC has done is based on the existing population of students at Vermont State University. So it is not a net gain, unfortunately.
And in addition, the high school students are not matriculated students, so they are not eligible for an 802 opportunity or a Freedom and Unity while they're still in their high school. So,
You know, I was envisioning if early college just simply was an add-on that we felt we could no longer afford, especially if you're offering, free college at the Vermont State
Right.
College System.
So the other element of that, as Chancellor Malk notes, because they're not matriculated students, they're also not eligible for federal funds. So those students are not eligible for a Pell or an SEOG funds or a federal loan to support them while they're in high school. They have to have graduated from high school and they need to matriculate in our institution in order to be eligible for those funds. So
But they don't need a Pell Grant if they're doing early college.
not if they're doing early college, and BSEC's program is separate and apart from that. They do complete a FAFSA in order to be able to do that. That's the free application for federal student aid. But they do that so that BSEC can calculate what their need is and be able to identify whether they can support them or not.
and so there is this possibility that if there were support for students in early college, I just talked about the fact that 50% of our students in that program are low income. This most likely would put it out of the reach of them being able to participate.
Yeah. Committee, questions?
I'm not totally sure what the question is. I feel like it sounds from this testimony like the success of one of our programs is at the sacrifice of another. Like, we heard testimony earlier this morning about how our class sizes and juniors and seniors are getting kind of decimated because of early college. Yet we're hearing testimony now that if we remove the early college funding, that's really critical to their ability to survive. So, it feels a little bit like one or the other. And so
Welcome to politics.
my question, I guess, is how do we pick which one needs to
Would you like to respond to that?
Sure. And again, we looked at our data, and certainly this is data that I am very familiar with. Overall, as I said, only 5.75% of high school students are participating in the early college program. And what we also know is that the number of students from a school district from year to year who choose to participate isn't always necessarily the same. This really is about having a choice for students as they're coming forward to say, is something, should these students have a choice when perhaps some of the opportunities at their school district aren't meeting their needs? So to me, again, it does come back to, for us, this notion of us serving all Vermonters, including high school students who are ready for early college.
Representative Brown?
Just of that 355, do we have, and you may have submitted this, do we have a sense of where those folks are located across the state?
We do.
Yes, so they're located in the vast majority of school districts or sending high schools here in Vermont. In most cases, the sending school districts, if they are between nine or more, are the large school districts. CBU, Burlington High School, South Burlington, Essex, Harwood, etc. We do have one school that is much smaller that has a very large number of students this year. I believe it's 28 was the number that I looked at yesterday, which is highly unusual. It's highly unusual to see that large of a number, first of all, but it's also really unusual to see that coming out of a small school.
Which school is that? Slate Valley.
That is Slate Valley.
I don't think that's unusual for them.
No.
The last year, the year before, it was 11 students. This year, I believe it's 28.
Mm.
So as Chancellor Mock notes, the number bounces around, but that's still, 11 is still, we know that's a large number for them, and that can be a challenge. We know that your legislation, the Act 77 from 2013, has some protections in it to protect school districts financially at 5%. But what it doesn't protect them is if more than 5% or 10 or 15 or 25% choose to vacate that school. That would be really hard on that school. And I totally can understand how that is an issue for them. But the options themselves for those students in general, in the vast majority of schools, we see between 1 and 3 students who are choosing to go. We only see the larger numbers in those bigger schools, simply because those bigger schools have a lot more students, and it's a much different situation. Slate Valley is a very unique outlier in that regard.
It's not the same for high schools that might be located near Johnson, Linden.
It is not. There are instances where they may have more students in them in a given year, but if you look back a couple of years, those numbers are much smaller. It really does sort of, it's the bouncing ball effect. You know, there might be one outlier, but no, generally People's Academy and the Memorial Union generally have much smaller numbers, for example. And certainly the schools near Linden and Randolph have different opportunities available to them. It's a little bit unique what's happening in Slate Valley right now.
Mine was a similar question, because hearing from schools, or you nodding your head, that, you know, a third of their class is gone. 30%, I'm like, only 6%? So are there wide swaths of Vermont where this opportunity isn't happening for any students?
So that we have school districts that have 0 students,
Yeah.
and a handful of school districts where it was 0 students this year and last year. I didn't look back to previous years prior to that. But a small handful, it's not a large number of schools that are that way. We know that guidance counselors are offering these opportunities, and your legislation is very clear about offering opportunities through the personal learning plans regarding this as an option, as well as dual enrollment, earn as you learn kind of activities as well. So talking about the CTEs, et cetera, this is part of all of that package. But in general, most schools are sending, 1 or 2. But if you're a small school, you're not sending more than 1 or 2 typically.
Certainly, when we looked at the data of all the school districts, we are serving all of Vermont in these school districts. And yes, some of them are less than more, but there is a robust servicing of different school districts.
Representative McCann.
Yeah, I'm so torn about this program in general. My daughter went through it. She went to Norwich. She had a great time. Scooped up a lot of credits. It was the right move for her, just coming out of COVID. Because she had been home the year before. I do wonder about that 6% number. At U32, we have 113 seniors, and 30 of them are part of early college. It's crushing us. That's almost 27% of our senior class, not 6%. So I don't know what the fix is, but it's very difficult to run our programming when we don't have enough kids in the building. And if we, and because, as you said, things fluctuate from year to year, if we adjust our staffing now, and then next year only 6% go, so 7 kids instead of 30 kids, then we, right, it doesn't allow for consistency in our program.
Can I offer a little bit of historical context for you? So when the program was first implemented, the state of Vermont had caps related to how many students could enroll in the program, not from the sending school, but on behalf of the receiving school. So how many students we could accept. Those caps were lifted for a few years because it was identified that the students who were choosing to enroll were doing so for a wide variety of reasons, and guidance counselors really supported what that looked like. But that is, certainly something that the state has done before, is have caps, certainly on the receiving school side. The only cap related to the sending school has been related to the funding formula and the 5% holding harmless to 5%. But that doesn't address the loss of those students in the classroom and in the social life of the school, which we know is big.
I just would point out to the committee, when you have that 5%, cap on how many students leave. You have to, as we talked before about phantom students, and that still is providing that school with the taxing capacity of those students. So you're paying for those phantom students as well. Yes.
Just clarification, so does that mean they're being paid for as a phantom student in their school and they're being paid for under the early college?
So
We don't know.
that's what I
It's
said.
complicated.
That's what I said, but it's probably a
It's
little
probably more
nuanced.
nuanced than that. That's a, not a, that's a ways and means question, maybe, or an approach question. Thank you.
Yes.
So I think I heard you say, pretty sure I heard you say that 50% of the students who are enrolled in early college are students who are not necessarily,
They're low income.
they're low, so that was, the criteria was low income. I couldn't remember whether okay, so, the Freedom and Unity Scholarship, is that means testing? So like that's
I think what they're looking at for that one is income caps, yes.
That's been proposed to $75,000 as the family income. And so family income regardless of the number of people in the family, which is how the existing program works at the community college.
Right, so, if we move forward with that program, which it sounds like it's happening, if we didn't any longer have early college coming through the education fund, those students those 50% of the students there would still have access to
They would not because they're not matriculated students, and so they're not eligible for financial aid in the same way that a student is. So a high school student isn't.
No, I'm talking about
Once they
waiting.
graduate high school.
I'm talking about waiting a year. I mean, getting, you understand what I'm saying? If-
Yeah.
Yes.
Cer-
Thank you.
Certainly, yes, if they did. The other piece I'd want to point out is Vermont, as we know, less than 50% of students are going on to college or some appropriate higher ed. And, this program has been very successful. 81% of the students are going on to college. And so thinking about that particular income bracket, if we say, okay, we're going to eliminate this program, we may very well eliminate their thoughts of ever going to college.
One of the things that we know about students who participate in the early college program, particularly those who have financial needs and issues, is that while they're in high school, their families are generally taking care of them to a greater degree than once they've graduated from high school. And so their ability to be able to enroll and gain college credit while they're a senior can still be done under their parents' roof. Now, certainly that's not all students, but that's some of these students. And by delaying until they graduate from college, particularly for a student who's thinking maybe college isn't for them, we run the risk of them not thinking college is for them at all. And that we could be 5, 10, 15 years down the road, which is what we find for a lot of the students attending the community college, because they come right out of school and they go to work because that's what they need to do to support themselves and to help their families support them.
I might offer that dual enrollment is designed for exactly that, to introduce students to college who might not otherwise enroll.
Right,
So that opportunity does exist even for early college, if not.
absolutely.
And I just would say that the statistic of 81% could be read a number of different ways, but also one could read it as, these are kids who are going to go to college anyway. So I just want to sort of say and I also don't want to, I'm not trying to be oppositional here. I'm just saying that for the committee's sake, that there are a number of ways of looking at it. If we were living in a world where we had all the money in the world, it's great. But we got kind of a loud message this year about property taxes, and early college lives in the property tax world. That's why we're having the conversation about what's in the education fund, what's not, or what needs to be there and what doesn't need to be there.
I actually have a separate question, if it's okay.
Yeah, please.
I was curious, 355 students, you said are in early college this.
That was last year.
Last year.
It's
Do you know the
377.
percentage of those students who take courses virtually or online, or, that?
I don't have the exact percentage. The number is increasing of students who are doing that. Remember, We want to serve every Vermonter, and so that does mean
Understand.
students who aren't necessarily close to one of our centers or our campuses.
Right, so I'm actually curious about how many students take courses online, that's all.
We can
That'd be
certainly
great,
find out.
thank you.
I
Appreciate
have,
that.
you know, for the students enrolled in
Fine.
the community college, about 87% of their courses are taught online.
Mhm.
A little less than 40% are available through a hybrid or online fashion with the university. So there's a combination of courses that can be taken. And so students can choose to take some courses online. Some can be online in a synchronous fashion, so where they're in the classroom, but they're virtual. And others can be asynchronous, and then still others can be in the classroom. And that can be the same person, can be doing 3 different methods, 3 different modes of learning.
So if that, that'd be great. We
Sure,
can see
we
that.
can find that out.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
I'm gonna just shift gears a little bit. Could you help me understand the intersection of early college and the proposed 3-degree promise program? Trying to understand, 802 promise, core promise. I'm getting a little overload here on a lot of these programs.
Sure. So the free degree promise is a promise to any student who is in early college, who completes early college. They would be guaranteed a free second year at the Community College of Vermont in order to complete their associate's degree. So the idea being that really this cuts their time in half to an associate's degree. So that is the core promise.
So it is a grant funded project out of the McClure Foundation that has, it's term limited. So there's only a limited period of time for it. And it's only for the students who participate in early college at the community college, not at Vermont State University. Freedom and Unity is a separate program that VSAC has proposed that would mirror the program that's available called 802 Opportunity at the Community College of Vermont. And it would provide free tuition, last dollar tuition. So the student using all aid and other sources for families with an income of $75,000 or less for those students attending Vermont State University. And it's unrelated to early college, but it would mirror the same program that we have at the community college with the 802 Opportunity.
And the first degree promise, it talks about full funding in FY 28, about a phase in starting in FY 26. Could you talk about that a little bit?
That I don't know.
And so it's a program that is negotiated between the McClure Foundation and Community College. So we'll have to get back to you on that. What we do know is that it is a program that is phasing out. They want to phase out that program. In many ways, they were using this as a pilot project to help identify, would this encourage more students to get to an associate's degree in a reasonable period of time? And really particularly encourage those students from the more rural and lower income backgrounds to be able to have that opportunity. With the community college having such a wide portion of its courses available online, they were a good place to pilot that because students from anywhere in the state of Vermont could participate. What they found is that students really are engaging in the program and they're really enticed by the program because of that free degree promise. However, they're not all remaining within the community college. Some are moving elsewhere when they complete their early college year.
Thank you. We probably should get a whiteboard up here with all of the various programs that have been proposed. Any other questions?
It's helpful, thank you.
Thank you. This is, and for the committee, so this is just sort of an example of the hard choices and listening to what Vermonters have to say, yet understanding that at a minimum, this program is critical to the operation of our state college system. And as Representative Harpel said, how do we pick? Sadly, that's our job. And this is a hard one.
We don't envy you.
The other thing that I think makes it really hard is also like having to hear that it is so critical to the survival of the college system. One of my gut reactions is, well, that's not necessarily the reason that we should fund it if it's predatory on our high schools.
These are all issues that this is a good sample of what goes on in
Yeah.
appropriations all day long. In a time when often the answer is no, not yes. Yeah. Anyway, this was very illuminating. Really
Thank you
appreciate you
so
coming
much.
and sharing this. Thank you. Thank you.